go live before people really get mad at me. All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201 in the winter 2021 semester, and it's week 10, part 2 of our broadcast. We had a bit of an error yesterday. We still have it today, but we're going to resolve it, I'm confident. So let's see what we had yesterday. So yesterday we had an error. So when I went up on Heroku, start with that first, and I look at my deployment, right? And if I open my app up, you get this application error, right? So I didn't resolve it because I want to do it with you. And this is good practice for us to do anyway. So let's take a look and see what the error that I'm getting is first. So we go to view logs. One thing to do is to give view logs a chance. Sometimes what happens is this is still processing the log. So it says project exited with status 1. A lot of times this gives us an idea of what the issue is. So right here it's saying it's trying to get path 1 and it's trying to get this path. If I can't get the default path, there's an issue. That's the issue. So it looks to me that when we look at our project, the project has a problem with our routing. That is what the problem is somehow, right? So let's compare what I did. By the way, I did some extensive testing today I have 2 deployments, if you notice on the website, on GitHub today. One of them is, it says WEBD6201, which is on, if I kind of click on this, the first deployment here on the top, it shows me the deployment, which is on Heroku. Okay, so that crashed. And the other one I have now, just like, I have a second deployment that I put together on Microsoft Azure to check to see if it was just me and Heroku. It's not me and Heroku, it's me. All right, so I checked on the production, this one here, right? This environment. And production is actually on Microsoft Azure, so a totally different cloud service. So if you go to view deployment, again, you can see that it's spinning as well. So it's having a problem. And when it spins like this, it means that it's got an issue. But in the deployment logs on Heroku, I'm seeing when it says all processes, right? You can look at different things here. So this is the web process. And you can see if you leave this long enough here, actually, what it'll show you is the actual error. And when I left it long enough before, what I noticed is that it continues to do the same thing, spinning out with the dot slash. It says host can't get to this path, right? That means that somehow, and that's what it's saying really here, it's saying for whatever reason that my routing is incorrect. Now I know that this has been working on my other deployment. So I've got 2. I've got 9A, which I did yesterday, and 9B, which I'm doing today. So let's take a look at 9A and take a look at my deployment for 9A. So really, remember my server.ts and my app.ts are the same. So notice that app.ts from yesterday is exactly the same, /routes index, right? That's the routing path, right? And this is on the TS side, okay? So, and then when I look at my routes, there's routes. And if I look at index, then you can see that I'm importing Express and I've got my routes here and all that kind of stuff. So I added additional routes yesterday because that's what the exercise is that we're doing, adding additional routes, right? So that is the thing that we're doing. And we had everything working and then it stopped working. So we know that's the case as well. So it kind of worked and it didn't work anymore. All right, so that's the first thing. And working locally and not working remotely, the problem with that is that there's it's something else. It's something that you're doing that is bugging the compiler online, right? So again, my server.ts, all it's doing is I'm importing and I'm kind of accessing /app. /app is got to be in the right spot, and that is in the same folder. That's what // means, same folder as this one. So again, I'm looking at it, and /app is right here. .js. That's the conversion. Here's my app.ts, and this is where it happens. So I kind of require errors, and down at the bottom, look, I even incorporated our changes to our error handler, which is a create error thing, right? So that it shouldn't be an issue either, because here we're kind of requiring HTTP errors, which is create error, and then the same thing goes with and this is like, again, on yesterday's deployment. And this is the same thing here that I'm requiring. So what is it that I'm doing wrong locally? That's the challenge. Sometimes it's like finding a needle in a haystack, and it's totally fine. Again, we're going to figure it out, but we're going to continue while we're going. So server.ts here. Again, we can see that we're doing the same thing. We're doing an import. Here, I'm just doing an import instead of a let, but that shouldn't make any difference whatsoever. This is like pretty much the same thing, right? So there's no difference in terms of the way we're doing stuff. App.ts here is converting to app.js here. App.js is looking at .routes index, and we're defining a property that's the only thing that's different from writing this on our own. And we're using an app use index router. Index router is here. So this is the actual code now, right? Then I'm looking at the JS conversion. Okay, so this is important to look at as well. So I'm letting index router equal to require routes index, right? When I go to routes index, and when I convert, I'm doing this. I'm saying module.exports router. So there's router dot here, right? And router is sitting at the it's sitting in the in an area that router is now in the cache. So when I say router itself, router is part of module exports for this file, index.js, right? So again, we're doing this silly thing right here, which is part of TypeScript, but it doesn't really matter. But the rest is the same: const express require express, router dot slash slash home. All this stuff is the exact same. It's nothing really different at all, right? And the same thing goes because we start with the same base. So in our client data, we have data and we also have scripts. And one of the things I noticed is when I was running my router.ts, client router had a bit of an issue. It said like, man, I don't know what you're doing, Tom. Because router has already been declared. I'm like, where has router been declared? Router's never been declared anywhere. I haven't used it anywhere. And then I said, let route, that's the route, and everything else. But it's weird that I got a weird TypeScript error earlier today. Anyway, so that is kind of a high level view of what we're doing. Everything looks okay, honestly, but it doesn't deploy okay. So back to Heroku, because Heroku, like I said, if we leave these logs on long enough, right, and if I refresh the logs, right, it's going to show us the the actual stack. It'll actually show us the stack itself. So one of the things that to notice is that it's not a deployment issue. Again, if it was just Heroku and I deployed it to Microsoft Azure, then we wouldn't have this error here, all right? Because this is the same error that we're getting from Microsoft Azure. See, there's this same site, azurewebsites.net. It's connected to the same repo, all right? So we know it's something that is not localized to Heroku. It's something that I did, right? And that's the first step. Once we know it's something that I did, something that is correctable. We can correct it if we know what it's me and it's not the the site. So it's just what it is that we have to figure out, because it's something that's different here, and I'm telling you guys, it's something really dumb, something that we're missing, that I'm looking over or whatever. And one of the things to do, of course, is because we have our original files, right? One strategy for fixing this problem might be recreate everything, right? That's going to take a little bit of time, and it'll eat our time today, as an example. And I don't want to do that. I'm going to continue in hopes that we're going to find the problem as we go. Okay, but that would be my first thing. I'm telling you, if you have this problem in a real deployment, I might redeploy, like come up with a try it again. do the same kind of stuff. One thing that you could also try doing, because right now, and I'm going to tell you this as well, right now that our app.ts, one way that it was working before, right, was, again, I was going into the client module and I'm linking to node modules. This is express static, linking to those things, right? And then I'm hitting slash. So notice like client, which is here, is going into, it's a static file that's loading, and it's going into scripts and it's loading all this stuff, right? So again, something that could be is a problem is this stuff. So worst case scenario, what I could do, and this is something that we can try doing, is because this stuff hasn't changed. I haven't changed a single thing here in my client assets and stuff, right? I could erase all this, right? And it's not a problem. Or start deleting things from in here and seeing if that's the issue. But again, I think the issue will disappear as we work. Let's continue. So one thing we want to do is, I'm continuing from yesterday. We have our node server working locally. Everything's fine. And we're also having a watch task that's watching for changes. What we want to do is we want to continue to convert our app from what we had yesterday, what we had last time, to the new stuff, right? So one of the things that we have right now, if we look locally only, let's go back and look locally, and it works great, but there's no navigation. So that's one thing that you can't see, right? So let's fix that navigation so it works again. So the way to do that again is to go to our, in our components on our header.ejs, what we want to do is we want to start thinking about using a link here again, as we did before. So nav link for the home aria page. And then what we want to do is an href, right? Which is what's missing in the anchor tag, href, and then /home. So that would be the new link, right? Because home is going to be a routing link that we're going to create. So there's home. And I'm going to put in this, this link in all of the these list items. So here, sorry, let's do that again. So grab this and put it in here. And so obviously this is home, this is about. We don't have these routes right now, but we're going to make them. Projects, what the heck? Projects, services, contact, and login. There we go. So those are the routes, and I want to take the same href that I have here, and I'm going to put it inside the nav brand anchor tag. So in here, also want to add in href home. But these won't work unless I program them. So I've saved this. This is actually the component EJS file. But what I want to do is go into routes and in my index.ts and then monkey with this stuff now, because we need a couple of additional links, right? All right, so we have router.get/ and home. We have those, but let's add the other ones. So we're going to go into changing some stuff. So let's say about projects, services. So this is going to be about, this is going to be a projects, services, contact, and login. So I've just copy pasted this stuff, and now I'm going to change these to make them work. So this is home page, the default route home page, the home route. This is the about page, the about route, right? So this is about here, and this should say about. And we're going to find that this is not really great. Okay, we're going to talk about this in a second. So about, and then this will be projects. So the projects page, right? So say projects, and this is services. So we're just going to make all the links, right? And this will be the services page and the services route. And so about project services, contact us. So contact, that's the contact route. contact page. We'll fix this in a sec, don't worry. Contact with the contact route, right? And documentation. And then finally, login, the login page with the login route. So we're getting the login page, right? Okay, so those are all our routes. So that'll actually do the routing for us now. All right, and let's see how that works. So if I save this and I've saved the header component, and if I go back to this and refresh the page, then we should have links now that are working. So home, about, projects, services, contact, and login. So those are all working now. Okay, that's the first thing. But one thing we notice is that there's no highlighting links. That doesn't work right now. And how do we fix that? Well, we wouldn't fix it here, but one thing to note is we have a couple of things going on. We have our title, but we want to be able to switch somehow our content on something. And title is good, but we also want kind of the page information. And what we're having here is an object that I'm sending into my template. My template is index.ejs. This is my template. It's coming in here and it's doing its work. It's loading up Bootstrap and Fort Awesome and my app.css and so on. Then it's going and loading the header and the footer and some content. But my content right now is nothing, right? I want to be able to switch out this part and I want to put in my content, right? So I want to go and do something like I've done here, right? Where I've done an include, I want to put that in there, but instead of components header, I want to switch out my content and whatever the page name is, okay? So what I want is my content, my content to be here, content, and then the page name. But I don't have the page name because I can either do a switch case or something like that to get me to the page name, or maybe what I can do is pass in the page name from the router, which makes more sense, right? Because I already have it. I'm already doing my switching on the router side. I could use title, but title, what if I want to say our products or our services or contact us? There is no contact us page. So I need another thing, another object or property. So what I want it to look like is this. It's going to say content plus, and I want to inject the page. I don't have a page object right now, but I want to get it. So let's do that. So back out to this, I want to go to my routes, and inside of my index, not only do I want to give my title, but I want to also do a comma, and I want to have a new project property called home, lowercase home. Now you're like, okay, so this is like duplication, but yes and no, because what you can do with this, I'm just going to kind of copy all this for a second. Remember, we can have as many objects as we want here. I can kind of attach all this. And what we can do is we can say that for the index and the home route, this is okay, right? Index and home. But for this one, for the title about, let's make our title about us. And let's make our thing about. So that is where we have the advantage. So our title can actually be a descriptive title, and our page can be something that we want to switch, right? So this will be our projects, right? And this will be projects. This is the advantage, right? Our services, which is more descriptive, and this is services. And this one will be our contact us, and this will be contact. And finally, login and login will be the same. Okay, so that's kind of where we want to go. So now that I have my page information here, and I'm switching it inside of my template, which is here, we should see if I click on one page, so if I refresh the page now, it should show us the page. So now I'm seeing actual pages, whereas before I wasn't. So there's my contact page and there's my login page. Back in business. And by the way, this one won't work. Register is going to give me a 404, because register I haven't made. So let's make a register link as well. So we're going to go here and go to my route index.ts and add in a register link. So copy this, go here. We're going to make it a register page with a register route. And we're going to call this register. And this will be register. So save that, come back, refresh, and we're good. You can see the register link, and sign up still works. So sign up and register is totally fine now. But I want to set this up so we can see which one I'm looking at right now. And the way we did it before was with JavaScript on the front end. Well, let's use Express on the back end for that instead. And the way we would do that is I would go into my index.ejs, sorry, in my header.ejs. And in my header, I can also include EJS. I can include EJS in my header because it's an EJS file. So I want you to think about how this would be done. I want to add something to the nav link when I'm in my home page. How could I do that? Well, I know I'm passing in two pieces of information. I'm passing in a title and a page. So I can switch on page. I can do something like this. I can say, so inside of the quotation, I can say, hey, let's put in some EJS. And I want to say that I want to inject, so that's what equals means. I want to add in some kind of thing. Like example would be, I want to add in something that says active. That's what I wanted to do, right? So I want to add active as an example. And if I was to do this, just do this, right? And if I press save, and if I refresh, my home page is always going to look like it's active. See that? Even if I go here, it's going to say home active, right? Because I'm injecting active into this area by using EJS. Remember, less than % equals and % greater than, that is a way of us targeting a specific area and injecting what we want. And that's what we're doing in there, okay? So that's what I want to do. But well, I want to switch it. I want to make a little if statement. So I want to say something like, I could say if else in one statement, or what if I did it like this? I want to use a ternary operator. I want to say if my page is equal to home, right? Then I want to make it active, right? Otherwise, don't do anything. That is a little link, right? So if I press this and save, right? This is using a ternary operator. It's injecting its stuff in there. It's converting it. And whatever the result is of this, page is equal to home, that'll give me a Boolean. If it's true, it will return this. If it's false, it will return this after the colon, okay? So if I go back and save it, and if I refresh now, if I'm on the services page, it doesn't come up. But if I'm going to home, it highlights. Nice. So I can take this exact code now, and I can copy it and in place right here. So there, and there, and there, and there, and there. And change these names to what they're supposed to be: about, projects, services, contact, and login. And if I refresh now, if I go to about, projects, services, contact us, and login, everything's the same. Well, login didn't quite work, did it? Look, login didn't do it. Why? Login, my page is equal to login, and I'm on this page, but it didn't work. Why? What did I do wrong? So let's go back to my routes and check it out. So in my router, right? And I'm like, okay, login, lowercase login, page equal lowercase login. And what happened? How come I'm here, I'm in login, but it's not highlighting? EJS, going back to my header, what have I done wrong? So I'm in my login link, and I'm looking at login, and this time it's not working. Right? It's not working. Well, I put it in the wrong spot. That's what I did, right? So let's change this back to what it's supposed to be, which is this. login list item is what it's supposed to be. So instead of this part, again, copy paste errors can kill us, right? What we want to do is we want to grab all this again, sorry, and put it right here. Okay, so that's all the difference was. So we're looking at login. And if I refresh, now it activates. Right, so these are activated links. And let's put this up on GitHub. So again, we're going to go control backtick, and I'm going to go to command, and I want to go git add dot git commit -m, and we'll say added content injection and link highlighting. Push. And that's how you do that. So what you're doing is you're using EJS to do the switching. And that takes up a lot of stuff that we did in the back end before, right? However, now we have an issue. What if I go and put in some kind of ABC thing? I'm going to get this error. Why? Because my error page also uses it also uses my header information, and I'm not passing in that information to the header. So in the error side, that means inside my app.ts, down in here, I'm passing in message and error, but I'm not passing in page or title. Let's pass those in just as a precaution. So I'm going to say, let's pass in title, which is going to be nothing. We can actually make that error for the title if you really want to. Error. And we can pass in, for page, we can pass in the error page. So something that is not, related to whatever we have. We can actually leave this blank too, but we need to have a page. We need to have what it's looking for. What do I mean by that? If I go to my header, it's looking for page. It's trying to find page here and every link. Because I'm using my header and my error page, it's trying to find something that doesn't exist that I'm switching on, right? And because I'm doing that, right, then it's causing me to have an error. So if I do this now like this, if I, kind of go back and put it back in, it's not going to have an error anymore. So if I refresh, you can see now it's back to 404 if there's a problem. Okay. And, certainly we can go with, I can render an error, right? I can render the error, which is this. And if I go to my error page here, right, then error is going to actually put in the status code and all that kind of stuff. But if it's a 404, if it's not some kind of error that is, as an example, something else, right? If it's not if it's not a 404 error, right? So the status code is not 404, then I want to show that in an H1, right? But what I can also do is I can do a conditional step here. I can say, hey, what if my message, error dot status code, if that equals to 404, if that's what it's looking, I'm looking for the status code of 404, then what I want to do, right, is I want to inject, I want to include my stuff inside there, right? So I want to do this. I want to do my inclusion of my, other things, my content. So remember in my index, I'm including content, right? Like this. So can I make conditional content pop up? Can I make it so that I want to do something that looks like this? So I'm saying that if this is true, right? So if my error status code is equal to 404, then include this content, which is going to be in my 404, .ejs page. So content 404, right? Include content 404. Otherwise, right? So that's this error here. So do this if this is true, right? And I can kind of close it off. Else, do the other part. do this next part, which is the part below what I'm doing. So this is what I want to do, include this content if it's an error 404. If the error.status code is 404, include this content, right? And I want to, you got to be careful how it's being done here. So I can say, there's this, but I want to start with an else. I'm doing this in one line, and you can do this in multiple lines too. I do else, let's open up a bracket. So if my error status code is 404, include this content. That's what I'm saying. Else, don't include this content, do this instead, right? And then when you're done doing this, close off the else, which can look like right? Because I'm kind of making this kind of the code block that's inside of my if statement. So here's my if statement. Do this, else do this. All right, so let's see if this works. So save. And if I refresh, I got nothing, right? So let's see what the error, did I get an error? This is important to kind of to look at, right? And again, I can look and see what my node is saying. So it says, get this is a 404, right? That's the error code. And then I want to inject, right? I want to include conditional information in here. Include this content, right? If this is true, if my error status code is 404, right? Else do this. That's what I want to do. So what about if I just include it and not do this else? Let's see what happens if I do that, right? So if I did something that looks like this, right? So I went and did this. I'm including this, right? And by the way, it's going to be it's a statement, right? And I can also do it on separate lines. So let me show you what that looks like. Sometimes it's a separate line issue, right? So let's go put this back for a second. So I could do this. So percent is equal to this, and then I can close this part off, right? And then I could say, if this is true, then I want to do my include that looks like this. So separate line. So do this, right? Let's not put the else in here right now. Let's just put it in like how it should look, which is something that looks like this. And remember, we're looking at my content, and we're looking inside of 404.ejs. Just like we went to about our page, we don't have to put the ending. And 404 looks like page not found. That's all it's going to show, right? So that's the only thing that's in the content area, right? So let's go back to this and look at my error page. So we're looking at this. If this is true, then do this, right? And then what we can do is put in another line. Right? Breaking it down. And we can say else, open this up, do this, and close it off, right? So this is the error. So if this is true, if status code is 404, then do this, else do this. All right, so let's see if that springs off a little better. And if I refresh, now we get a 404 page not found. It's nice, right? But if it was some other error, then, and by the way, if you go do an inspect, then you can see that sure enough, it's a 404 failed to respond to the server, page not found. That's what we're looking at. There is no page like that. So it's causing a 404 error to pop up. Otherwise, if it wasn't a 404 error, then we're going to get that other error, 404 not found, right? That's the actual error that we're getting, right? But we're actually showing our custom 404 page, all right? So which is in here. So it's kind of interesting how we can use EJS on by injecting content in a page, and we're just using simple JavaScript. But the idea is that we want to put in these marks that basically the syntax is allowing us to switch. We're going to use the same idea to get as much of our page converted, our application converted this week as possible before we move into MongoDB next week. All right, this is pretty good. I like it, and I'm happy with the way it's going right now. I'm not happy with the online stuff, but that's okay. We're going to get there. We're going to fix it. Okay, great. So this is the first piece that we're looking at, and we've done switching, we've done content injection, but none of the content works. None of it works. So let's see how that works. So if I click on home as an example, that's okay about project services, but I want to do a contact and do something here that the validation and everything else has to be triggered by the front end because we don't have a back end right now that we're going to use for that. We do have a back end, but we're not using it for that. So let's make the front end work. One way to figure this out is in my app.ts, which is inside of my client side. So on the client side scripts under app.ts, in here, there's a lot of stuff in here I don't need anymore, right? Example, I don't need highlight active link. I'm doing that highlight active link now. So let's just comment it out for now. So in my app.ts, inside my scripts folder, in my client folder, I know it's a lot of folders, but it's just organization. That's all it is. I just want to highlight this whole thing and then go edit and then toggle block comment, which is going to turn this off. Okay, so that's the first part. And now we're going to create errors for ourselves, and we're going to go to the areas where it says toggle active link, and it says, well, highlight active link is here, but notice what it's doing. It's loading a link. I don't want to load a link anymore. Loading a link was using my client-side router. So let's just undo this one too. So we don't care about that one either. So again, I'm going to toggle my block comment. Shift-Alt-A is the quick step for that. Shift-Alt-A for active link. How about add link events? I don't have to do this either. So Shift-Alt-A for add link events, right? Shift-Alt-A for add link events. So we don't need that. Let's go to the next error. Add link events. Load header. Do I have to load my header anymore? No, I don't need to do that anymore. So Shift-Alt-A. Any client-side routing is gone, right? So you can see I'm taking care of these errors by commenting stuff out. Or how about display contact? This we want to do. I want to be able to display my contact or deal with my contact information, right? So here in my load link, instead of load link, we don't want that to be the case, but instead we want to make it a standard href. So location.href is equal to /contact, right? And that reloads the contact page. So that's what it used to be. This is what it's going to be. Okay, so save that. Let's keep going. All right, what about this part? This is our contact list. That I want. Okay, so cool. Let's go down and see what I can remove though. My button load link. Okay, we want to make it so that it's a location.href in here instead. So we're going to comment this out. And we're going to say location.href, and that's going to equal to /edit, and then some kind of information that's going to be related to this.value.toString, which is going to be a hashtag, right? I want to put this in there for you guys. A hashtag with, or a question mark, however it's going to be, right? That's a query, right? With additional information, this part. That's what it's going to be as an example, plus this, right? So this plus this is what the actual href is going to be now, right? So not a hashtag, but a question mark and all this, okay? So that's what the edit's going to look like. It won't be a load link here. Again, we're not going to have any load links anymore because those are unnecessary. We have our routing on the back end now working, right? So we can refresh the page by going location.href is equal to /contact-list. We don't have a route for this, so it's going to error out right now. We don't have a route for this. It's going to error out for now. Well, we're fixing the problems here, right? Again, this one would be edit without any of this stuff, right? So again, I want to do comment this part out, and I want to go do a location.href that's equal to a something like edit. Okay. Display my edit page I want to do, but I'm not going to have my client router link data in here anymore. It's going to be something else. So my key is going to be something I'm getting from somewhere else. Okay, just letting you know. Let's keep going down the thing. Okay, load links. Load links from my contact list. So again, comment this out, and it's going to refresh. So it's location.href equals to contact-list. Same. Right? Display login. Okay, this looks like it's going to work. We need this part, but as we go down to load link, we're going to put in that same href and comment load link out. We don't need load link anymore. And keep going. Home, it's going to be /home. Again, all I've done is a copy location.href now because it looks. I'm not going to worry about displaying register page right now. So I'm going to comment. I'm actually going to delete that whole thing altogether. Toggle login. That is not something I want to use at all. So I want to go a Shift Alt A on this entire function. Remember, I was having problems with it originally anyway. So this whole function, I want to do Shift Alt A and comment it out. So no more toggle login. And I'm actually just, kind of compressing it too. I don't want to even see it. And we can do that for the other ones. Authguard. Authguard's okay, but I want to do an href to /login and comment this part out. Display 404. I'm not going to actually do it here, so I'm just going to delete it altogether. Okay, now this thing, active link callback. Again, totally useless. Not going to use it anymore. Shift Alt A. Shift Alt A. It was good before, not good now. All right, and inside my header, I have all this stuff. Well, we know this is not going to be good, so we can comment that part out. But then how do I switch and activate certain things? I got one more error, which is up here, toggle login. This is comment that out. I'm not going to toggle out it. Hey, wait, that's load content. I don't need that anymore. Shift Alt A, just get rid of that whole thing. Same thing with load footer. I don't need this, and I'm never going to do any of these here. So let's just get rid of all this. Just like literally delete them all. So we can make it so it's slimmer. Eventually, we're going to get rid of all the comments. But I'm putting them in there so it's to show the stuff we want to work on, not the stuff that we don't want to work on. All right, and down in here, what I want to do is some kind of switch case, right? I want to do a switch case that basically does some stuff. But how do I switch on what? Well, we don't have anything to switch on, right? We can't switch something that's here, that we want to do. So how do we switch? I don't have anything to hook into to switch anymore, right? I mean, I have my page, right? What if I can get that page information, kind of communicated to the back end? One of the biggest problems we have with routing with Express and JavaScript is how do I communicate from the back end to the front end, from the front end to the back end? I got to pick it up somehow, or I got to send it. The way I can send it from JavaScript to the Express side is with a GET request or a POST request. Those are the two easy ways to do that. The way I can get it from the JavaScript side to the from the Express side is some kind of injection, right? Using EJS, right? Or where I create the page, I manifest the page itself, I render the page through the Express side. If I make a brand new page or some kind of information that I'm passing in from the back end, right? So let's use that idea. So on the back end, again, on my routes, right, I have index.ts, right? And I have my page that I'm communicating the entire time, right? So in my index.ejs then, is there a place that I can inject my page permanently that my my JavaScript can pick it up? So some place that I can inject it. And one common area that people use is the body tag. I can in place something like a data. So I can put a piece of data in there, right, as an example. And the way to put the data in there is through an ID or something else. So I can say ID or a name or something else is equal to something. So I can say ID is equal to, and I want to inject, right? I want to inject information. What is it going to be? It's going to be the page. So the page information is going to be injected in the ID of the body tag. Okay, so that's always going to be the case. And if I was just to do this, right, and if I refresh my page, and if I inspect my page now, let's inspect my page. So going to the elements of my page and going to the body tag, you can see now that in my body tag for the contact page, it's the ID is contact. I can inject whatever I want into the page by using anything that's coming from the back end, right? So this is pretty good. So I can say, okay, I want to get the ID of the body, and whatever the ID of the body is, as an example, I can switch on that. Not on the page name. Title is not going to work anymore because it's ugly. Contact us. I mean, I could, but I want to be able to switch on the body tag. So back to the front end then, which is way over here, I could say that down here, I can say that, hey, jQuery, what about if we look at the body tag, right? And I want to look at the only body tag that's on the page. And I want to, when I look at the attributes, I want to get an attribute, which is the ID attribute. All right, so this is what I want to do from jQuery. Hey, jQuery, I want to get the ID attribute. And from the ID attribute, I want to say that that is the page ID, right? So the page ID is the ID attribute that I've injected into the page from my routing. And then what I can say is I can switch on that page ID, where I can say case, if it's home, then do something, and so on, okay? And I want to do the same switch case. Do you want to, what's this? User account control. Nope, I'm not, whatever that was. So case, if I'm doing home, then what I want to do is I want to add in, that was weird. Something I was trying to install. I want to add in, you know, different pieces. So home, and then about, right? If I had more stuff in here. Now, I don't need home or about. I don't care about home or about. What I really care about is the stuff that I want, which is I want to take care of my display contact. Let's look at the outline. The stuff that I care about is here on the outline, right? For my actual page. I don't care about test full name or test contact number or test email. Those are going to be done with form validation. But I definitely want to display contact, contact list, display edit, display login. Those are the ones I care about. The rest, home and all that stuff, it's not going to be here. So I don't have to switch on stuff that I'm not going to use. I'm not going to do home and about here, right? I'm not doing that. I'll do that on the back end, right? Instead, what I want to do is any kind of validation. Let's do front end validation. We'll say case it is contact, right? Then what I want to do is I want to display contact, and I want to break. And then case it is contact lists, I want to display contact list, right? And then I want to break. And then case, let's display contact and contact list. This case, it's edit. I don't know what that is, if it's edit, but if it is going to be edit, I'm going to, you know, display edit for now. I don't think it's going to happen, but just in case I need to go to my edit page, I want to display my edit page. And then case it is login, I want to display login. So those are the things that are going to be the only things that I care about, because those are the things that I want to do here. Any kind of forms or stuff like that that I want to validate on the back end, on the front end. All right. Back end validation we haven't touched yet, but we can do that too. All right, so that is what we can do. We can switch on page ID and do this, but remember, this isn't even going to load unless I add it into my index template. So if I go to my index template, which is here, index.ejs, then what I want to do is the bottom, I want to do that load. But now notice that on the bottom, I'm using EJS as in my Visual Studio Code. It's detecting the page as an EJS page because of my .ejs extension. So I want to change this to home, or HTML. And then I can use my emmet. So script, source, and then I want to say /scripts, and then /app.js. But remember, if I'm going to use contact and I want to do logging in, like my mockups, I definitely want to use script source, and I want to do /scripts / contact.js. And I also want to do, just this copy paste here, I want to do a script source, and I want to look at my user.js. So these are the things that I've tapped into from before. But my poor router is completely useless right now because my router is only for front-end routing. I'm not doing front-end routing. I can get rid of my router. But if I do, then it's going to mess up my index, my edit page. So let's say if I get rid of all this, let's say delete it, because I don't need my routing anymore. It's gone, right? Let's just delete it. And if I press delete, get rid of it, my app.ts has a problem inside of my edit page. My edit page says, hey, when I go there, I'm supposed to get my data from my router somehow, and it's gone now. What have you done? Right? You're right. I don't have anything right now in there. And why? It's switching on the key. It's basically saying that, well, you know, when I'm saving my information, right? I'm saving my information on an object. I'm passing my my data, my link data, whatever it is, into the page so that I can edit it. Okay. Maybe there's another way we can do this. My link data is inside of my client routing, right? But we're not going to do client routing anymore, right? So I could just temporarily, right? I mean, again, this is something that we have to consider. It's a consideration for only the front end, that inside of my core, I could have some stuff, like some properties that I'm going to use in my core for now. So I could have link data in here. So I could say, let's link data, right? I could say that equals to, and remember, we have to define what it is. It's going to be, my link data is actually going to be the string. So I can define it like that, right? And now let's start getting rid of all these comments, because obviously we don't need any of this anymore. I'm just showing you, I wanted to show you what we can comment or remove. So let's get rid of all these comments. So all the stuff that we don't need anymore. So all the documentation for functions that we're not using anymore can go. Again, I'm just going to get rid of one at a time, so you can see that we can make our code on the front end now a lot slimmer. We don't have documentation for this. This is just our testing for our form validation. But link data is something that is part of core, that is here, that I can access and I can save stuff into. I don't need a whole class for this. I can just do it there if I'm only doing that, right? So testing is okay. Display contact is okay, right? I don't need to do this, you know, load link anymore. I can get rid of it, because anything that doesn't make sense. Display contact list is good, right? And I don't need to do this stuff anymore. But instead of doing it this way, remember, what we want to say is, let's do this, but I want to make it so that when I go to, before I go there, I want to say that link data, right, which is this, link data is equal to this. Now we got to be doing some cleanup, because we can't always have that in there, right? Link data is equal to this, and we kind of do this, same thing. So we're just fixing it. That's all we're doing. We're fixing this issue. We don't have a router anymore, but we're going to fix the problem when it comes to this. So this is okay. We don't need to do this anymore. And this. Now we're down to the display edit. We're going to say the key is equal to client router link data. Nice. It's just link data now. right? And key is any type. Link data is, did you mean link data? I did mean link data. This is great about, the great thing about TypeScript. TypeScript just told me, hey, you're going to make an error here. So this is what I want. Great, fantastic. And let's go down here. So I serialize, I do whatever I have to do. I add it in, I do my form validation, and then I do my edit button, click event. And when I edit it, I can fill this stuff in and blah, blah, blah. And then I want to go back to my contact list. Well, no matter what I do, when I go back to my contact list, I want to clear up that link data. If I'm editing, I don't want to, whether it's I'm adding a new one or doing whatever I'm going to do, I want to set that link data to nothing. So I'm going to say, just for now, I'm going to say link data. It's just a little piece of code we're going to kind of do. We're going to just set it to nothing. So we're going to basically undo link data, right? We're going to make it so that link data doesn't exist. Because checking to see if it's equal to this. If it's equal to this, let's make it exactly equal to that. Sorry. Then it's just going to say, it's going to do this part. Key name is equal to full name, context string, whatever, if key is equal to this, my link data, right? Because remember what's happening is, as I go through, if the key is this, or if the key is not equal to this, then I want to inject the stuff that I have from my local storage. Otherwise, I'm just going to make new ones. That's all I'm saying here, right? All right, so that is the way I'm going to do it, and I'm doing this part. I don't need this. I'll take away my error. Display login, everything looks okay. We're mocking it up anyway. I'm going to do this, take away my error, take away this as I'm cleaning up. All this can be deleted because this is stuff that we're not going to need anymore. And all this can be deleted. So now we have a slimmer file, right? And we've also got rid of a whole pile of code that was my router, right? So that's pretty good. All right, now we're good. Now we're golden. So now we can switch on contact, contact list, edit, login. We don't need routing, right? And what we're going to do is when we go back to our page, which is our index.ejs page, and that is our template. This is going to be going here. It's going to check to see if I've got whatever the body tag is, and it's going to switch and inject the code that I need locally based on the page. Whew. Let's see if this all works now, or if I made mistakes. So go back to this. If I refresh, we're going to see now we have app user contact. It's been injected. And let's see if I can log in. So log in, I want to go to admin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and go log in, and it says page not found. Why? Because contact list doesn't exist. There is no contact list. Let's make contact list a thing temporarily, right? So back to our drawing board, I want to go, but it worked. That's the beautiful thing. It worked there because if you look at this, and if I go to inspect, and if I look at application, and if I look at session storage, we have an admin user, right? That's what we have. Okay, so the admin user got logged in through the login system that our mocked up login system that we had from last time, right? So that's back to normal again. Again, so what we want to do here is let's just delete this key so that we're not logged in anymore, okay? Just because we don't have a logout function yet. All right, so back to the drawing board. I want to go back. We can leave scripts alone for now. And let's close up our client and go back to our index.ts file and say, okay, well, let's put some temporary stuff in here. So we'll say, some temporary area, right? Not that. This. So temporary area in here, that's basically going to say that I want to get I'm making this remark here. This is temporary routing, right? This is just for testing, right? We're testing how it would work if I was logged in, if I have a logging in, logout system. I don't have that right now. There's no backend really. There's the backend, but there's no database. So here I would do when I log in and I want to go to a contact-list. When I go to the contact list, this is going to say contact list, and this will be, the page will be contact list. I also need contact list page, contact list route, right? I also need a edit page. So I need edit. That's something I'm missing. So the edit page is there for the edit route, because I need to be able to edit stuff too, right? That doesn't exist, then I can't do it. My title right now is edit. Maybe we'll change that with JavaScript on the front end. And my back end is edit, right? So that's something that's going to happen. All right, so that is the two links that are temporary for us that we're going to add in. And this is only because we don't have actual authentication. We don't have that. All right, so let's go back. And if I refresh, then it's going to go, nope, you're not logged in. It's going to take me back to my page. That's good. So let's do that again. So I'll say admin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then log in. And then, hey, look, we're back to what we had before in terms of functionality. Now, if I click add, it should take us to the edit page and say add contact, but up here in the title, it says edit. And why? Because we never modified the title, right? Document title was never modified when we went there. We could do that in code, but for now, not necessary. If I want to add a contact, let's see if this all works. So I want to add a brand new contact. Let's add Peter Parker and 416-555-5557, and then we'll say Spider-Man at example.com, and click add, and then there he is. There's Peter Parker, right? We can edit the contact, and that failed. So that's something that we have to figure out, because we went there and went to edit, right, to the edit page. We swam to the edit page, but as you can see, we never picked up the extra information, right? Let's go back and see what I'm talking about here. So why is it then that in the edit page that it didn't work, right? Well, let's think about this for a second. I went to my scripts and I went to my app.ts, and I said that I'm going to go, when I click edit, I'm going to go to the edit page. Awesome. And then I go, let's look at the outline, and I want to display edit. So I'm just going to kind of minify these things so you can see everything. By the way, you can also see my link data property now that's there. Okay, it's a variable. And I can go to display edit. And when I go to display edit, it says, hey, pick up that link data. Guys, where's that link data going? There is no link data. There's no link data because when I go to my edit page, the page reloads, and when the page reloads, my app.ts reloads, my app.js reloads. When my app.js reloads, link data is wiped out, right? I go to this page is, I'm getting here with an href, right? I'm not getting here anymore with, by maintaining state, right? I'm not maintaining state at all, okay? So what I need to do somehow is in my edit page, or in my my contact list page, this page, right? When I click the link, right? When I click the link and I go to my edit page, right? What I want to do is I want to do it with a different kind of event, okay? I want you to consider this as a thing, right? So how do I do routing? And what about if I want to pass any extra information inside there? The patterns for finding the link is kind of interesting, right? Because what's happening is I'm saying, okay, I want to go to edit, but then I want to add something else after edit as a piece of information, right? That's what I want to do, right? So how do I do that? that's the key when it comes to routing. So let's go back to, just briefly, let's go back to express routing. So express route. So I want to go to express routing, and in express routing, it shows us some routing methods. Here's app.get, and there's app.post. Those are the two things we can do. I can do app.all, right? That's another way of doing it. So everything, whether it's post or get, I can get that. I can also think about pathing. So for example, I have characters that question mark plus star and blah, blah. I can do pathing. And it talks about how to do some of this stuff here in our code. And here's something. I can search for things, search for a pattern matching that I can do, right? This kind of stuff. And it also, what about routing parameters? Oh, this is what I want. If my route path is users / and something, right? Books or book ID or whatever I want, right? I want to be able to route that way as well. I can get it from something called my request parameters. My request parameters is going to have users, which is, so this is my path. Suppose this is my path, right? I can say that if this is my path, users edit for us. And I want to pass in some information after users / some kind of information, right? And book ID, I can actually do it like this. And I can use request parameters, request.params, to do my switching. That's what I want to do. Again, example would be, I can also do something that looks like this. From to, : from and to, this is the pattern. And this would be what it looks like in the link. So from flights, right? From LAX - to San Francisco, right? As an example. From to, after the / flights, and separated by a dash, right? And I can actually parse all this information for us with request params. So I'll say from LAX to, which is what we said, to, and then San Francisco, okay? So that's the way you can do it. You can do all these different kinds of interesting routing like this. I have a user ID, so / user ID, whatever the user is, I can do that right there. So this is what we want. So : and then some kind of ID, right? / I'm going to do a /, right? So I have a link and then / and then some kind of ID. And this is what it's going to be. So the route that I'm going to make is my edit / and then some kind of ID. That's what I want. Let's go back to the drawing board with this. So in my edit then, in my contact list, right? And if I go to my contact list here, so here's my contact list. I'm going down the pipe here and I'm looking at information I'm going to send out to the routing, right? And I'm saying, okay, when I go and click the edit button, here's my link data. My link data, which I temporarily have right now. Remember I said I was going to set this temporarily up just to solve my issues, my problems, right? I'm going to click on the link data, and then I'm going to add in anything that's in here in my button when I'm clicking on here, right? So it's going to be edit / right? And then plus some kind of ID, which is this part. That's what I'm putting in there. So that's what I'm getting in. That's good. That's what I want. So whatever the data is that I'm getting, the value of the string that I'm clicking, that's going to be my information, right? From the value of the edit button. Okay, so I don't need link data anymore because it's useless anyway. So this is gone. Now, on my edit, there's two edits. One here, which is nothing. There's no link data. And another one, which has link data. So that means that, let's go back to our routes. And inside on my router, on my back end, then I can look at two edit types. One that has no link data, where my title of my page is add, and my page is going to say add as well, Bear with me. I know you're going to say, wait, Tom, it's going to break. You're right. And then another one where I can say /ID, where my ID, right, this ID is equal to my params that I have, request parameters, right? So let's go back to this and take a look at what it does. It says, I want to get my ID, right, whatever the ID is, user ID, right? And remember my user ID, whatever this is, ID is request parameters, request params.id. So ID, this part here, is really, I can say let ID is equal to request.params.id, right? ID is the thing that I put in here. Whatever I call this is what this is going to be, just like what this is happening here. If I call this user ID, then the request parameters is going to have user ID, followed by a value for my user ID. Okay. Here I'm calling it ID, right? This could be the contact ID if I really want to be specific, right? And then my ID is going to be here. Okay, so my params ID. So now that I have my ID, right, I know I'm editing. So this is going to be an edit page. And this is going to be my edit information. But remember, I have information now that I can pass back to the page that I never had before, right? Right? So I have user information or contact information in terms of an ID that I can pass back to the page. I've just picked this up. So what I can do is when I edit and I do this, I want to do something with the page here. And when I'm pressing the page out, right, when I'm creating the page, I want to inject that information back into the page. So for now, I'm rendering the page, but I can pass that information back into it. So I can say that for this page only, right, I can pass in that ID. Okay. Now remember, for the right now I only have one template. I can have as many templates as I want, right? And the ID is only going to work for the edit page, right? So what if I made an extra template for now, instead of just having a single template, which is form. Remember, right now I'm using index, right? This is index, the index template. But I can have as many templates as I want, right, in my views. So instead of making an index template, what if I had an edit template, right? And in my edit template, only my edit template would have information about my page. I can do this. I can do this, right? So I can have the ID, right, which is my ID, right? And this, we can call this my contact ID just to make it so as we can separate it. Contact ID. Contact ID is equal to ID, whatever the ID is that I get from my params, right? And instead of using my index page, I want to make a brand new one. So we're going to copy and paste. And we're going to make this call, we're going to call this scheme edit. So rename to edit.ejs. Now edit, we had our inside of our page, we had an edit page, right? But we're going to use the edit template. This is something different, right? So the header and the footer is going to be the same. But what I'm going to do in here, instead of injecting a page that's in here, right, I'm actually going to take that edit page and modify it. So I'm going to go to the edit page. Well, remember, we want that information somehow. Want to get that information from the page source itself, right? So remember, we can't put it in every single page, but just in the edit page, right, that we're going to get. So if I go to the edit page instead, so if I go back to routing, and again, I'm just thinking this out with you guys. So if I go back to routing and I use edit instead of index, right, then it goes to this page here. This is the template that it's going to use instead, where this is the only one that's going to have a contact ID, right? I need to store this contact ID somewhere on the page, right? So in my edit page itself, I have to think creatively of where I can store it. Well, I have my ID there, right, which is my page ID. That's going to be doing my switching, right? And I also have an add page, which is a little different than my edit page, okay? If I want to be smart about it in my routing, just to cut down on functions, then these pages should be the same. Edit and edit. These pages should be the same, even though it says add, right? But my contact ID's got to be sitting somewhere. Somewhere I got to save my contact ID for so it doesn't mess up, right? So where can I put that on the page? That's inside of my edit page. So I have an edit, my ID. What other things can my body tag have? I can have as many properties as I want here, right? For example, I could put in a name or something else in here. I can add to the page ID, you know, or whatever I want. I can put in some data information, right? And if I look at online, so if I go say a data attribute, so if I go do something like data attributes for JavaScript, right? What can I do with that? So using data attributes. So the way data attributes work is data dash whatever, right? And data, I can have my own custom data attributes that I want to make, right? So example would be I want to have something that is on my own. That's something that doesn't really you know, kind of mix. So using data attributes. So data dash is what I want to do. So it says so it's designed with extensibility in mind, like it says in the on the documentation, right? So I can associate with a specific element. So the HTML syntax would be something like ID. Instead of my ID is equal to electric cars, I can have data dash and whatever I want. Data dash, and then I can have ID or contact ID is equal to, and then I can inject my contact ID, right? How do I get access to that? I can use the get attribute function, right? So I can say something like document dot, and it says query selector. Query selector is looking at the ID, right? That's going to get my article, right? And then when I want my data set, it says article dot dataset dot, and then columns, index, parent is equal to this, right? So I can put whatever data I want in there. So that means I can do something that looks like this. I can say, and by the way, I can do data dash page too. That's also something I can do. We can fix that later. So I can say data dash, and then I can put in my own piece of data, which is my contact ID, right? And that's equal to my custom parameter that I want to put in there. So I can say percent equals to my contact ID, right? So that's what I'm doing. So I'm injecting my contact ID in there only for my edit page for this particular contact when I'm editing. Phew. The rest stays the same because this is going to go into my edit page and it's going to display the same edit page that I had before. But on the JavaScript side, on the front end, when I go to my app.ts, right, and I'm swimming down here, what I want to do is I want to detect if there's that data attribute, right? So I go to my edit page. When I go to my edit page, instead of doing key is equal to link data, right, I want to get it from where it's going to be, which is going to be what we had before, which is I want to get reference to my my body tag. So again, I want to get to my body tag first. So let's say, and in my body tag, we'll use some jQuery for this. Hey jQuery, let's go to my body tag, and I want to look at the first body tag, right? And I want to look at my, when I'm looking at my body tag, I want to look at my data set. So data set dot, and whatever I called it, which is contact ID, right? And if my contact ID is empty, right, then it's going to fail, right? If it's not equal to undefined, it's okay. If it's equal to undefined, though, it's going to go do this. Let's see if this works. And this is new stuff for you, right? So let's go back to this, and let's go to here, and let's go to login. Login takes us there. I want to click on edit, and oh, okay. So look, it actually did what it's supposed to do. Take a look at this. It said, this is really good. Look, it said, here's my edit. And then I went to this piece here. This is the link I went to, right? So slash this. And then I got, when I inspect, let's inspect console, it says a couple things, Bootstrap and all this stuff failed, right? Again, we're finding this problem. We're pretty close to what we're doing. It's failed to load a resource. This doesn't know what that is. Edit, right? And I need to know that my link, my routing is going to work. Did I save my router? So again, going back to my index.js, did I save this part? This piece? Did it go to here? Router.get this. Router.get this. There's two routes here, right? One that's the basic route and one that's this route. Okay. So let's see if it got here. So I'm going to do a console log. Request.params. And let's do that. Refresh again. So note it says, here's my edit contact. It actually showed it this time, right? But now let's take a look locally and see if I actually got there. Look, there it is. So it actually went to that route. It got there, right? You see? Got there. All right. But then what I did was it said, I've got this ID. See, it says the ID is equal to this. It actually picked up that ID. So whatever I clicked on, it picked. That's nice. Okay, and then it went to my edit page, edit.ejs. My title is edit. Is my title edit? Yes. My page is edit. Page is edit. Okay, nice, nice. And then my contact ID is ID. Nice. So it went here. So how come this failed? What could have caused? What do you think? Because I started loading, but then it said I don't know where Bootstrap is. I don't know where dist is. I don't know where any of this stuff is. I mean, it worked on index, like all this stuff worked, and all I did was copied index here, and somehow it failed on edit. It couldn't do edit, but it did, the rest. And error works, but edit didn't. This didn't work. Well, it's because of the routing. The way we're doing these dot slashes. Remember, what's happening is it's going to say edit slash the name of this slash Bootstrap. Look, edit slash, and then inside of that is Bootstrap. That doesn't work. You can't have edit and then inside of that is Bootstrap. That doesn't compute, right? So what we need to do is modify these. So if I did that, I'm just doing it for the edit page right now. But if I modify this to this, so it's slash Bootstrap, and if I go refresh, now we've got our edit page, okay? But it's going to be the same thing for all this other stuff, all right? So let's see so far it's working. Let's go back and do all this, because these are just like pathing we're talking about, right? Slash means go to the root of our folder, right? So this is what this does. And save. And if I refresh now, we've got a page that's good. But no information came in because we had this problem. Okay, let's go back and log in again. Let's try it out again one more time. We're almost there. 1 min, log in, click this, and we're getting edit, even though the page says this, right? That's the page, right? We're getting edit page. And why is that? Well, it all comes down to our data.stuff that we're getting. So let's take a look at the page. This is interesting. So this is where we make our own custom pages appear. It looks like we have a new page, but there is no real new page. It's just we're passing in the information from our ID, which is our params ID. And if we look at the thing here, there's my parameter ID right here, which is caught inside the routing, which is right here, right? We don't need that anymore. But, why then did it not pick it up here in my scripts on my app.ts? Because it's supposed to pick it up right here. Let's output the key. So let's look and see what that is. So first of all, do I have a dataset.contact ID in the key? Did that even work? Because remember, what I said was, in my particular case, in my edit.ejs file, I'm looking at data.contact ID. It's got to look like this, is equal to whatever I'm going to put in there. Okay, so let's see what that is. So I'm going to go back to my app.ts and let's just output that console log e. And if I go back and I click edit, then it's undefined. Huh? Look, it's clear that it's there, all right? So what does actually the element look like? Well, there it is. Look, data-contact ID is equal to this, right? I mean, it's clearly there, right? So, and if we look at the example online for using data, right? It says data-columns in my article, as an example, is equal to 3, data-index number is equal to this. And I'm supposed to get it with data sets, right? That's what's happening, where I'm querying that element. Okay, so let's keep going. What it is an element that I want. I mean, I could put it in something else like a name instead of my data set. So instead of this dataset.contact ID, contact ID is a string that I'm getting in from my body. Let's look at the body tag itself. So let's get my body tag. Here's my body tag, and let's look at what I get in my body tag so I can see what I'm getting there for a second. And I don't care what this is right now. I'm just going to do it. So save and go back out to this and refresh my page, please. I don't care about the error. Okay, so it says data.contact ID is this. So I'm actually getting this data.contact ID. It's there. Look, you can get it. You picked it up. So what is up? Why is that not working? All right, well, what if I just said, and because this is how it's working. So what about data set? So let's go do a data set idea. So okay, JavaScript data set, JavaScript data set, undefined. Right, so how's that working? Why do I get an undefined data set in my JavaScript? And it says, so I'm getting access to it, and then it's looking at my data set, whatever it's going to be, right? And what if I wanted to see that? What does it look like? So I want to say that key is equal to data set. So what about if I show my entire data set? What do I see in my body data set? Again, troubleshooting 101, right? Refresh. And it looks like in my data set, I have a contact ID and it's all lowercase. I didn't use contact ID. I forgot. You're going to have to use this all lower. It doesn't matter what you call it on the element. It's all lowercase. It reduces it to lowercase. So that's what it is. It's there, but it's dataset.contact ID, like lowercase, like this. That's how it's going to look, because that's how it reduces it when it comes to dataset. So dataset.contact ID. And then if I refresh, finally you get it. So that's how we can get data. And we have one more last thing to do, and we're done for today. And I'm not checking Heroku. I'm going to fix the Heroku problem another day. For your in-class exercise, I'm not going to hold you to Heroku because I have errors. So there doesn't make sense for you to be able to do it, you know, and making you do it when I have errors. So I'm going to fix my errors. It's going to take time, but I'll fix it. It's just a bug that I have in my code somewhere. All right, so one of the things we want to do is switch on logging in and logging out, and we want to be able to detect that I'm logged in or not. So again, just like we did before, when I click login, I want to send the information out to my, to my our friends inside of my page, right? So what I mean by that is in my routing. So my routing right now, when I go into my login page, so here's my login page, look at my outline, right? So if I look at my display login, my form right now, what it does is, here it is, my display login form. When I click the button, username and password, I do some validation, and username and password, what happens is if I check with my data.json file, by the way, this is available live. If I know how to get to it, if I do something like go to, I'm just going to show you this. So if I go to data and I say users.json and I do that, I get this. Right? I get this because there's no protection whatsoever, right? I haven't done any kind of thing. I'm not stopping you from looking at this, and because data is inside of my static path, right? Because remember, inside of my routing, in my app.ts, my global app.ts, right? Then I say that I want to combine everything in the client folder, which is everything in here. I want to combine it on the path, on the directory path, right? And when I do that, that includes this data. So anything that's data, contacts, and users, that's in here. That's what it does, right? So because of this, then I have access. Everyone has access to this if they know that it's there. I don't know. If you don't know that it's there, you can't tell, but I can always read my JavaScript to figure it out, right? So this is a security hole, which we're going to plug after we get MongoDB backend, right? But for now, we don't have that, so we're going to do this. We're going to just allow it. It's just, remember, it's just mock data just to test our pages. That's what it's there for. That's what we've been using this whole time, mock data. All right, so that's what this is. And by the way, what about if it works? If I say, if I want to call this Tom Smite, does it actually update my data edit? Right, so it does. All that works. I can delete. Deletion works. Everything else works now. Adding a contact, as an example, Tom Smite works, right? And that all works, right? Did I just lose Peter Parker? That was weird. What happened there? That is really weird. Okay. Anyway, so that's a bug too. But one thing to note is that this doesn't light up, and there is no contact list link, and there's no logout. All right, we need to make that happen. So how do I know that? Well, what I'm saying is going back to my scripts and my app.ts here. Bear with me, guys, while I'm doing this. I know I'm running a little bit late. I log in, I press my login button, and I get my access, but then I'm going down here, and in my contact list, I href. Okay. When I go to my contact list, I'm logged in, right? So I'm sending this to the router. I'm logged in. So, if that's true, and if I'm logged in, then I could have a separate template as an example that I'm logging in, and I can check to see what my template is. If I'm logged in, I'm going to send different information to the routing on the back end to show that I'm logged in and when I'm not logged in. Okay. So that's one way I can do that. But I know that I can send some information in. So when I'm logged in, then if I go back to the router, I have a user that I'm logged in with, whatever the user ID is. Doesn't matter, right? So I'm going to say that, and this is the hack that I'm going to use for now, just to prove this. when I'm logged in, right, then I want to be able to log out, right? So when I go to my contact list page, right, as an example, I know that I'm logged in. I know it, right? So because if I go there and if I have a user ID, right, if I'm actually able to get there and it doesn't redirect me back, then I'm logged in, right? So that means I have some kind of user information, right? Let's say, for example, the admin user, whatever that admin user is, right? So that is what it's going to look like, right? Same thing with my edit page and my add page. So these are extra pieces of information that I have, as an example, when I log in. By the way, you can use this as display name as well. My user is this, right? Here's my user. And I'm logged in. It doesn't have to be admin, by the way. It could be any user. But my user has information. What about when I'm not logged in? So when I need to log in or register, then my user is going to be blank. So let's just do it temporarily. I'm going to say that my user is blank when I'm in my regular page, unless I switch it out, right? So for now, I'm going to put in a user that is not logged in. I'm passing all the user back with everything because, remember, I'm going to use the same template. I can use different templates, by the way, and not a problem. So there we go. We're going to get back to this in a sec and fix it. But yeah, I can totally do this, right? I can go back and I can put in, I know that I'm an admin user. And if I have an admin user, if the user has something in it, if it exists, is what I'm saying, right? Then I can do something, right? So if I go here and I have a user, then I can do something. Two ways to do this. I can make extra routes for every single one of these things, just like I did with my edit page. So I can say edit / and the user ID. Haha. Then I would show the user ID at the top. And that's not good. I don't want to show the user ID at all, right? Or I can just have it internal. And this is what internally does. It just has a user. So if I have a user, then what I can do is in my views, in my header component, I can start switching. I can say, well, you know what? I want to show the login if the user doesn't exist, if there's no user, right? But if there's a user, then I want to show my logout. So I can say that if user is equal to, is not equal to this, right? It's not empty, then I have stuff in there, right? This is what it's going to be like. I have things I can do, right? So I'm going to put this in the same line. And then I'm going to kind of bracket this off at the bottom, right? I want to do something else. I'm just going to log in, which is this part. I already have that part. Right? I can use crafty EJS to do this kind of stuff for me, right? So this is going to be what happens if I don't have a user, if it's equal to nothing. But if my user is not equal to nothing, it's equal to something, it's logged in, all right, as a hack, then what I want to do is I want to show this. But instead of showing log in, I'm going to show the logout list item, which is going to say logout. I don't care about having it highlighted because it's just going to show it one time. So all this part here can go away. And it's going to be /logout. I need a link for that, by the way. And then this is going to be logout. And this will be sign out instead of sign in. So this is what it's going to be. But now if I go and I need a logout page, a logout, then what I need to do is in my routes, right, in my index.ts, then I need a logout. Logout is going to be something that's available all the time, right? It doesn't matter whether I'm logged in or not. So it's going to be up here, right? So log in, register, and there's going to be a logout link. For now, my logout link is going to be temporary. I don't have a logout link, but I need one. Where do I go when I do my logout link? Well, later on, I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to perform logout and redirect. Okay, that's what's going to happen. I can't perform logout because I don't have authentication. So I need to go somewhere. So for now, I'm just going to go to my logout page, which I'm going to quickly create. And my logout page is actually going to be an empty page, right, that I'm going to make. So I'm going to go into my components or my content. I'm going to add in an empty page. I'm going to make a new file called logout.ejs, and it's literally going to stay empty. I'm not going to inject anything in there, but it needs to have something in there, else it'll error out. All right, so it goes there. It goes to my logout. My routing goes here. My logout page is active. It goes to my logout. And then how do I perform logout? In my app.ts inside of my scripts folder here. Then when I do my switching, which is down here, I need to display logout. I don't have that. So case logout on my back on my front end, because that's how I'm doing it. I'm going to display, or actually I'll perform logout. Is what I'll call it. Perform logout. There's no display, nothing, right? And what does this look like, performing logout? Well, it's just a function. So perform logout, which is going to return void. And remember what we did was we want to look at local storage or session storage. So we're going to say session storage.clear. That's going to clear session storage, clear the user. And then I want to do location.href immediately back to login. So it doesn't do anything. It doesn't display anything. It goes here, right? And then it's going to link us to this page, which is logging out. Perform logout, just sessions, clears the session storage, which removes the user from session storage and then logs in. So how does this work? So when I'm here, if I'm in my contact list, right, and the user exists, let's log out. See how logout was there? If I log in and I go to login, then I get a logout page. Look at that logout, right? I click logout, it does log in again. It quickly showed that logout link because that's how we made it work right now. And then it did this. So that's pretty good. So logout totally works and it shows up. And I did that by switching the user inside of my views, components, header.ejs. I did this switching, right? Well, if I can do the switching like this, right, then I can do the switching with my other stuff. One thing I did was erroneously, error on my part, I removed the link information that I had in my toggle login. We can get it from online because I haven't updated yet. So if I go back online to, this is the great thing about GitHub, to GitHub, and if I look at my client scripts, and if I look at my user.ts, then not user.ts, if I look at my app.ts, then inside here I have a toggle login. And in my toggle login, I had this information that we had before, right? Which was my, when I'm logged in, I also want to show my my contact list link, which is this one. I don't want to do that again. So I'm just going to grab this link from GitHub just really, really quickly and put it inside of that header information. I'm going to say not only am I going to do the logout, but I'm also going to show my contact list link. But this is a problem, my friends, because my contact list link is only going to show up when on my contact list. And when I click on my contact list link, which is going to look like this, and this is why we say it's mocked up, it's going to show my contact list, yay, and I want to make it highlighted. So I'm going to grab all this part from my contact list link. Contact list, yay. When I'm there, it's going to show it highlighted. Awesome. But when I'm not there, it's not going to show up at all. In fact, neither is the login page or logout page. And that is an issue. But it's something for another day, not for today. So how does this look? Well, if I go back to my login page, let's log in, let's refresh. I go into admin and log in, right? And if I did it properly, it's going to take me to my contact list page and show up with contact list, right? But if I click anything else, it's gone. And there's no way to get it back because this does not detect that I have a user, because the user comes from the router, and the router can't, we haven't passed in any information to the router. That's permanent. The router doesn't hold any information. There's no session state that it's getting right now. I could use other modules to read the session, but it's temporary and it doesn't make any sense. So we're going to do that next week when we start doing things with, or starting next week, we're going to use MongoDB to take care of things. So for your in-class exercise, if you can make it work so that you can do a login and kind of go here like this and show this, right, kind of stuff, and you can do all this information here, and you know, a couple of screenshots to show this kind of stuff. What it would be really helpful to show, because you're confirming that things are working. As an example, let's add a new contact. Let's add Peter Parker now. What happened to my other contact, by the way? It got wiped out, right? So take a look at Tom. What happened to Tom, right? I went to add, right? And then it wiped out my other one. That's an issue, guys. That's a real issue. What it did. What did it do? So remember I said there's a bug? This is a bug. This is definitely a bug. But we're going to fix this bug with proper routing and proper database work. But it's pretty good in terms of what my look and feel is for my website. I've got all that stuff. Everything else is working. Let's put this up on GitHub. So this is the version we're going to stay with for today, right? So again, on my command prompt, I'm going to say git add dot git commit -m, and I'll say converted most of the app to Express, and then git push up. Now we know it's not going to work on Heroku. We have still the same issue, right? As an example, 100%. The issue is not gone away because I haven't changed anything, right? So if I'm going to pray that it's going to work, so if I go up on Heroku now, and if I look at my build process and I think it's just going to go away, it's not going to go away. It's another issue, right? And we're going to fix this again. I'm going to work on it on my own and try and troubleshoot, and I'll try and report back to you what it is when I have a little bit more time. But at the end of the day, the build process that we're seeing is normal, right? We're seeing everything working and building properly. This is the first step. If it didn't build here, and then it would have a problem. Even from here, it wouldn't have a work. But opening the app doesn't solve anything, right? It's not going to suddenly magically fix unless somehow we've modified something to make the routing work. And it's on the app.ts in the configuration. App.ts is not routing properly for some reason. It's not picking up the router, and that's what's happening here, telling us what the error is. If I go to view log, it's telling me this is the error. It says, I don't know, I cannot find this path. That's what it's telling me, right? That is the error. And the status is 503. 503 is a server error that we're getting because it can't find this path. It's not able to find that path, no matter what I do, right? Even if I refresh the page, and if I look at the back to the log, where is that? Where's my log? Back to the log, you can see that even when I refresh the page, I'm trying to do this, and it's doing the same thing. If I go here and refresh the page again and go back here, you see it's another one of those sets. Look, it's trying to do that. It's showing me that it's trying to get there. Forget the favicon. We don't care about this. Favicon doesn't exist, but not being able to get to my path, That's crazy. That's crazy talk, right? That shouldn't crash like that when I get to my my app, right? So how's that working? Why am I not routing? That's a tale and a twist for another day. All right. Okay, that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much for staying on board and listening all this time. Any questions for the people that are here or online? All right, guys, thank you so much. This was my intro to Express this week. We'll do more. Next week, we're going to talk about MongoDB. If you notice, we're kind of talking about, we did a bit of debugging already, Node.js. We're supposed to be hitting things like Mongo way late, like way down here, but we're hitting it next week because we're going to do MongoDB, probably next week. And then if we can get everything done, full CRUD, create, read, update, delete with MongoDB, and a new module called Mongoose, we're going to be golden for the last part of the last 2 weeks of class. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you next week.